As the State Department and the U.S. public consider whether the proposed Keystone XL tar sands pipeline is in the national interest, it is critical that the most accurate information be made available. That's why I've offered an amendment to this legislation that eliminates a rhetorical, baseless safety claim and replaces it with a substantiated factual statement. TransCanada is engaged in a high-stakes public relations campaign to brand the Keystone XL Pipeline as safe and their company as responsible owners. I'm sure that BP Oil said the same thing about Deepwater. But that wasn't true. And just because they say it doesn't make it true. It is one thing for a foreign oil company to employ misleading rhetoric, but it's not the place of the House of Representatives to endorse it at these mistruths. It only requires a brief objective glance at the safety record to realize that TransCanada's meritorious safety claims do not withstand even the slightest scrutiny. When selling Keystone, that's not Keystone XL, which we're looking at, Keystone, another pipeline, to the U.S., TransCanada claimed the pipeline was, quote, state-of-the-art, unquote, and even went as far as dubbing it, quote, the safest pipeline ever built. Well, we're in trouble. After one disastrous year of operation, TransCanada's rosy claims are not reflective of the reality that exists. In less than 12 months of operation, the so-called safest pipeline ever built has spilled 12 times in the United States, the dirty dozen, and 21 times in Canada. Following that 12th domestic spill, the Department of Transportation shut down pipeline operations because Keystone was deemed, quote, a threat to life, property, and the environment. And since Keystone is TransCanada's first wholly owned oil pipeline in the United States, TransCanada's safety record is off to a pretty bad start. TransCanada's misleading safety claim extends far beyond their simple rhetoric. Here are three of the most egregious claims for Keystone XL. Number one, that TransCanada's claim that if and when the proposed Keystone XL pipeline has a leak, it will shut down the pipeline almost instantly. Unfortunately, spills on the Keystone pipeline have demonstrated that TransCanada's theoretical response is far better than their actual response. In May, when Keystone spilled 21,000 gallons, it took TransCanada 44 minutes to shut down the pipeline after the spill. And it would have taken even longer had it not been for a landowner who called in the spill, which shot a 6-story high gusher of toxic oil into the air. You'd think it was Texas. Number two, TransCanada suggests there is little risk of a spill on the Keystone XL pipeline. However, the only independent assessment of the worst-case spills for Keystone XL indicate that TransCanada has greatly understated the severity and frequency of significant spills, an estimate that is more than 800% lower than what would likely occur. Over the last few weeks, we have all witnessed the irreparable damage caused by the 40,000-gallon Silvertip pipeline spill in the Yellowstone River. Now try to imagine how devastating a 6.95 million, almost 7 million gallon spill of more toxic oil would be on the Yellowstone River. A spill of this magnitude and devastation is possible if we approve the Keystone XL. Number three, TransCanada claims that Keystone XL would be built of thicker steel and operate at lower than allowed pressures. But major segments of Keystone XL will be made of thinner steel than ExxonMobil's failed Silvertip pipeline. And while Keystone XL would operate at lower than allowed pressures, it would still operate at nearly twice the pressure of the Silvertip. Additionally, Keystone XL would be transporting tar sands, a substance which is far more corrosive and volatile than conventional oil. Even a current review of TransCanada's safety claims reveals a web of exaggerations, understatements, and lies, prevarications, mind you, that have been carefully woven together to manufacture an image of safety and responsibility. It is critical that the American people have an accurate depiction of the dangers of the proposed Keystone XL pipeline. Congress must exercise more scrutiny and not take TransCanada's manufactured rhetoric at face value. We cannot afford to let TransCanada once again dupe us into permitting an even more dangerous pipeline than Keystone was. For as they say, and we all know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Somebody from Texas tried to say that once, but we know the statement. I urge support for my amendment and yield back the remainder of my time.
The gentleman from Tennessee yields back his time.